This is your sign to never go near weird sounds that you hear at night. This story was sent in by Megan through my Instagram DMs. And y'all, after reading this, you will never catch me walking through the woods ever again. Megan told me this happened the summer of 2018 when her and her two friends just graduated high school and they had a few months to themselves before they left for college. Within those few months, Megan told me they hung out every day. The three of them tried new things, explored new places, and just living their young lives to the fullest. She said at the time she had a car, so it was easy for them to do whatever they wanted. Megan told me that one afternoon, her and her two friends decided to go on an hour drive to this beautiful flower garden in Pennsylvania. When they got there, they watched the sunset and reminisced on their high school years. She also told me while at the garden, her and her two friends overheard a couple that were talking about the woods nearby and how there were unusual things lurking through them. So this sparked something in all three of their brains because they're already so adventurous, so why not see what's going on? Megan told me she regrets being a crazy rebel at the time because originally, after the sun went down, the three of them were supposed to leave and head back home. But instead, they decided to stay out in an area they're unfamiliar with and explore the woods around this garden. Megan said the three of them just wanted to see if these unusual things that the couple spoke of were true. Megan said as the sky got darker and time flew to after hours, Megan parked her car in the park entrance of the woods. She told me there were two trails, a blue and a red one, but of course, if you're feeling adventurous, you could free roam. She told me the three of them ended up charging their phones for a while in her car, just so they can use them for flashlights without worry, and after they began their journey. Megan told me they started on the blue trail, and as they got deeper into the woods, they decided to go off track and go their own direction. At first, they all thought what the couple said was a load of crap, until Megan told me some interesting things started to happen, which changed their mindset completely. She told me at different points throughout their walk in the woods, all three of them kept hearing what sounded like animals screaming. Her friend Ryan said that it might just be deers calling to each other, but Megan and her friend Casey both agreed that it might be something else. Megan also told me at one point while they were walking, her friend Ryan ended up slipping and fell down a small hill. On the way down, Megan and her friend Casey ended up screaming. And as their screams echoed through the woods, they all heard and felt the vibration of a stomp shaking underneath them. At that point, all three of them knew it was time to go. Megan said on the walk back, they were all getting this weird feeling that something was watching them. They didn't know if it was an animal waiting to attack, a person watching them from afar, or an unknown entity inching up to surprise them. As they were walking back, trying not to make too much noise to attract whatever was there, Megan said something strange happened. The three of them heard their names being called from afar and what sounded like their parents. Megan said the three of them turned around to face the direction of where the sound of their names being called was coming from, but it didn't make sense to them because if it was their parents, why would they be deep into the woods at this time of night and how did they find them? But Megan said it was like a trance they were put in. They were like under a spell. The sound of their names being called from what sounded like a megaphone was making their bodies move towards it. Megan said after a few steps, her body snapped out of it and she grabbed Casey and Ryan. The three of them were confused and petrified because what was trying to lure them in? Megan told me as the three of them broke out of the spell and stood there, the woods sounded quiet. There were no signs of insects chirping, bugs flying around. It was dead silent. Megan told me Ryan ended up walking a bit in front of the two girls just as safety, and as he was waving his flashlight around, inspecting the area, when he lifted his flashlight upwards, he froze. Megan remembers asking him what just happened. Ryan pointed up, and Megan told me that she could literally see that Ryan was shaking with fear. When both her and Casey looked up, shining their flashlights, what they saw next had them trembling with fear. One of the trees didn't look like every other tree surrounding them. A few trees back, they all saw what seemed to be a large pole with two megaphones attached at the top. Because it was farther back, they couldn't see the full pole figure, but they noticed it looked like it had shoulders and two arms. Megan said it was almost like them shining their flashlights at it awoken it because what sounded like an emergency siren started blasting from it. Three of them covered their ears, screaming from the pain it was causing to their ears. Megan said she screamed run while tugging on the back of Casey and Ryan's shirt, indicating that it was time to go. Megan said as they turned around and started making a run for it, they could hear this giant being catching up to them. She told me with each step that this thing took, the ground shook, causing them to almost trip over themselves. At one point, the three of them all heard a crack and the sound of a tree falling. After that, the sounds of the siren got louder. It was like a screech. Megan said she looked back only to see that this thing or entity was blocked by the fallen tree, making it unable to pass. She told me the three of them then heard their names being called out again, but with an angry tone, and they didn't fall for it this time. They kept running and running until they reached the beginning of the trail and back to the parking lot where Megan's car was. Megan told me when they reached her car, the sound of their names being called and the sound of the siren was no more. They didn't hear anything, but the regular sounds of the woods were back. Insects chirping, bugs flying, the sound of wind whooshing. Megan described it as if the three of them entered an alternate universe and somehow escaped last minute. Megan told me on the car ride home they couldn't stop talking about it and agreed to never go back into those woods. She also told me her friend Ryan ended up looking up what they saw, and they all came to the conclusion that it was in fact the Siren Head.